I straightened my silk tie in the mirror, my reflection staring back at me with the same steely gaze that had earned me both respect and fear in the business world. Tonight was one of my annual gala events, a showcase of power and influence where the city's elite would gather under my roof, vying for my attention and approval. As I made my way down the grand staircase, the murmur of voices and the clink of champagne glasses filled the air. My wife, Lila, stood at the bottom, her scarlet dress hugging her curves, a vision of elegance and poise. She offered me a smile, but I caught a flicker of something else in her eyes, a restlessness that even this opulent display could not soothe. "Robert," she greeted me, placing a delicate kiss on my cheek. "Our guests are waiting." I nodded, slipping into the role of the consummate host. This was my domain, a fortress against the chaos and betrayals that lurked beyond its walls. I had built an empire through ruthless determination and an unwavering belief in my own invincibility. The evening unfolded in a whirl of introductions, handshakes, and forced laughter. I moved among the crowd, exchanging pleasantries and making subtle power plays, always aware of the shifting alliances and hidden agendas that swirled around me. It was during one of these strategic conversations that I caught sight of Marcus, a close friend and business associate, his gaze locked on Lila from across the room. Something flickered in his eyes, a hunger that sent a ripple of unease through me. I pushed the thought aside, dismissing it as a momentary lapse in judgment. Marcus had been a trusted ally for years, his loyalty never in question. And yet, as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the nagging sense that something was amiss. Lila moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her laughter ringing out a little too freely, her touches lingering a little too long. I watched her, my suspicions mounting, as she engaged in hushed conversations with Marcus, their heads bent together in conspiratorial whispers. It was then that I knew, with a sinking certainty, that the fortress I had built was not as impregnable as I had believed. The seeds of betrayal had taken root in my own home, and I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. In the days that followed, I began to watch Lila more closely, checking her social accounts and tracking her movements with the same precision I applied to my business dealings. The evidence mounted, each email, each whispered phone call, painting a clearer picture of the affair that had blossomed under my nose. I could feel the rage building within me, a burning coal that threatened to consume everything in its path. But I knew that lashing out in anger would only serve to alienate me further. No, I needed a different approach, one that would allow me to regain control and exact my revenge in the most devastating way possible. So I bided my time, gathering proof and tracing the digital fingerprints left by my wife and her lover. I watched as they grew bolder, their plans for my downfall taking shape in the form of siphoned funds and whispered promises of a new life together. Little did they know that I was already one step ahead, laying the groundwork for their undoing. For every move they made, I countered with a strategic strike, setting traps and planting false trails, all the while letting them believe they were winning. As the days turned to weeks, the game grew more intricate, more dangerous. But I was a master player, and I knew that in the end, the victory would be mine. The autumn leaves fell like embers, painting the city in hues of rust and gold. It was on one such crisp evening that I decided it was time to confront the architects of my potential ruin. "Lila, darling," I said, catching her in the study as she pored over one of her many social media accounts. "I have something special planned for tonight." She looked up, her eyes guarded. "Oh, a dinner party," I explained, forcing a smile. "A chance to celebrate a new business venture with some of our closest friends." Her expression softened, and she nodded, oblivious to the trap I was setting. "Of course, Robert. I'll make sure everything is perfect." As the guests began to arrive, I greeted them with the same cordial charm that had become my trademark. Marcus was among them, ever the charming ally, his eyes seeking out Lila's with a hunger that made my blood boil. "Robert," he said, clasping my hand, "thank you for the invitation." "Wouldn't dream of leaving you out, old friend," I replied, my words laced with venom. As we gathered in the dining room, the tension was palpable, simmering beneath the surface of forced laughter and clinking glasses. I caught Lila's gaze, her eyes darting away guiltily, and I knew she could sense the storm brewing. "Marcus," I said, raising my glass. "A toast to your continued success." He met my gaze, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. "Thank you, Robert. Your friendship means the world to me." The lie hung in the air, thick and choking. After dinner, I led the group to my study, a room where many of my greatest battles had been waged and won. The lights were low, casting long shadows across the polished wood, and the air was heavy with the weight of impending revelation. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began, my voice smooth but with an edge that cut through the silence. "I wanted to share something important with you." I paused, letting the tension build. I have been reflecting on trust and betrayal, on how those closest to us can sometimes be our greatest enemies. Lila's breath caught in her throat, her composure wavering under my piercing gaze. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, the veneer of loyalty cracking. "What are you saying, Robert?" Lila asked, her voice trembling. I leveled my stare at her, my expression cold and unforgiving. "I know about the affair, Lila. I know about the stolen funds, the plans to leave me bankrupt." The room went still, the silence a heavy shroud. "Robert, please," Marcus began, but I silenced him with a wave of my hand. "Don't bother lying," I said, a cold smile playing on my lips. "I have all the proof I need." With a click of a remote, the screen behind me lit up, displaying bank accounts, emails, photographs, undeniable evidence of their betrayal. The documents I had gathered from Lila's social accounts, the digital fingerprints they had left in their arrogance. Lila gasped, tears welling in her eyes, but not from remorse, from the realization that she had been caught. "How could you, Lila?" one of the other guests whispered, their voice laced with disgust. Marcus stood frozen, the trap too well laid to escape. "You see," I said, addressing the room, "I could ruin you all. I could send you to prison, let you rot in the bed you've made. But that's too easy." I paused, savoring the moment. "Instead, I'm going to let karma take its course." I explained, my voice measured and precise, that the funds they thought they were siphoning from me were, in fact, from accounts that were already flagged by authorities for fraud, accounts I had set as bait. Any further transactions would only entangle them deeper in a legal nightmare. Lila's eyes widened, the realization of her mistake sinking in. "As for your future," I said, turning to her, "you will leave tonight. No money, no possessions, only the clothes you wear. You will experience the world without the protection of my name." "Robert, please," she begged, her voice thick with tears. "I'm sorry, I never meant." "Save your breath," I cut her off, my heart as cold as the steel in my gaze. "You made your choice." To Marcus and the other conspirators, I was equally merciless. "You will find your accounts frozen, your assets seized. The evidence of your involvement is forwarded to your companies, your families. Your reputations will crumble, and you will learn what it means to lose everything." The room was deathly silent, the weight of my words hanging in the air like an executioner's blade. "Please, Robert," Marcus tried again, his voice cracking. "We were friends." I met his gaze, my expression carved from granite. "Not anymore." One by one, they left, broken and defeated, their dreams of a future built on my ruin reduced to ashes. As the last of them disappeared into the night, I stood alone in my study, the weight of victory settling on my shoulders like a mantle. The room was silent, save for the ticking of the antique clock on the mantelpiece, a metronome marking the passage of time. I poured myself a glass of scotch, the amber liquid catching the flickering light from the fireplace, and made my way to the large window that overlooked the city. And yet, as I gazed out over the skyline, I felt a strange hollowness settle in my chest. Victory, it seemed, came at a price. The sound of footsteps behind me broke the silence, and I turned to see Lila standing in the doorway. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes red-rimmed from tears, but she held herself with a fragile dignity. "Robert," she said, her voice little more than a whisper, "please, I beg you reconsider." I regarded her coolly, my expression hardened by years of battles, both in the boardroom and in my personal life. "You had your chance, Lila. You made your choice." "I was a fool," she said, taking a step closer. blinded by my own selfishness and greed. But I still love you, Robert. Surely that counts for something. I felt something twist inside me, a flicker of the love I had once held for this woman, this partner who had sworn to stand by my side. But it was quickly extinguished by the memory of her betrayal, the sting of her deceit. Love? I scoffed. You knew nothing of love, Lila. Love is loyalty, trust, respect. You threw all of that away the moment you decided to betray me. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I remained unmoved. Please, she begged once more, give me a chance to make things right. I shook my head, my resolve unwavering. It's too late for that. The damage is done, and now you must face the consequences. Her shoulders slumped, and she nodded, a flicker of acceptance in her eyes. Then I suppose this is goodbye. I said nothing, watching as she turned and made her way out of the study, the echoes of her footsteps fading into the silence. With Lila gone, the weight of my solitude settled around me like a heavy cloak. I drained the rest of my scotch, savoring the burn as it slid down my throat, and returned to the window. I was Robert Castellan, a solitary king in a castle built from the ashes of broken alliances and shattered dreams. And as the city stirred to life around me, I knew that my reign was far from over. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.